everybody, how's it going? I'm Alejandro Perez, the CGI Nerd. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to use nesting inside of Python for Maya. The nested loops that we're going to be doing is going to create a 5x5 grid of spheres. And we can nest loops like while loops or for loops. We can also nest if statements or any conditionals. So being able to do that will actually be a really powerful way to get more effects that would take a lot more lines of code, whereas we can limit it to just a short lines of code. So let's take a look at what we're going to be doing. So we're going to need 3 variables. One is down, so that we know the current position to create the object. I'm going to hold it at 0, and then across, that is equal to 0, and num, which is equal to 0. So what do each one of these represent? Down is the current spot going down. Across is the current spot going across. And number, or num, is the current sphere being created. So we're going to start off with a while loop. While down is less than 5, because we want to create 5 rows. And let's make sure that this doesn't get stuck in an infinite loop. So we're going to say down plus equals 1. I like to do this immediately because if I get stuck in an infinite loop, it will be a headache to get out of it. Let's print down just to make sure. Yeah, if we get stuck in an infinite loop with Maya, we basically have to restart Maya and we would be stuck with no code that we've written, and at least anything that we haven't saved. All right, so we get 1 through 5, which is what we would expect. Okay, now let's get this actually doing something. Let's say nc.poly sphere. So when we do this, we can see that it creates 5 spheres, which is exactly what we want. Let's make sure that they're assigned a name that we want. Our name equals, and let's create a variable. Let's say the new name is equal to my sphere plus, and then we're going to need to hold this into string, str, because we need to concatenate the same types together. Num plus 1, and then we can close the parentheses, and then the name here is going to be new name. Run that. So we get 5 spheres, my sphere 1, all the way through 5. Perfect. Oh, it's kind of working. It's actually not working the way I said, because it automatically it is going to be, if it hits 1, it will create 2, like if it's the same name. So right now we're actually creating the same name. Let's make sure that we increment num plus equals 1, just in case. So let's clear this, and we should see that this should give us the same result. This is technically right. The other way worked, but it could potentially cause issues in the future. Okay, so let's do a while loop here. So that way we can start, actually before we do the while loop, let's get these moving down, because this is the down attribute that we're doing right now. So we're going to say mc.set adder, and the attribute we want to set is new name plus .ty is going down. And then what do we want to set it to? We're going to set it to down times -5, because we want it to move down. If we want it to move up, we can do a +5 number. So let's clear these spheres here. There we go. And just to make it a little bit easier on us, so we don't have to clear the spheres over and over each time we run it, let's do a mc.select all equals true, and then mc.delete. Just so that way, every time we run the code here, I ran it like 5 times, we started off from scratch. Give ourselves a little bit more space. Okay. So we have the spheres being created down. Now we need to set up the spheres going across. So this is where the nesting takes place. We need to create another while loop. So we're going to say across is less than 5 because we're going to create a 5 by 5 grid. So basically, the while loop is going to be inside of this while loop, and we're going to want to indent it. So that way it loops inside of this loop. And anything that we want associated with this while loop, we want it to be indented as well. So in this case, what we're going to do is select all of these and then push tab. That will indent it for us. Let's give us a little bit more space here. So all of these things are going to be happening inside of this second loop. The reason I want that to happen is that we're actually going to be creating the sphere and positioning it. And we're only going to use the down loop here to reset and change values. One thing that I want to make sure that I do is that we're not stuck in an infinite loop. So now that I just created the across loop, we're going to say across plus equals 1. So let's run this command and we'll see what happens here. So we still have 5 spheres, even though we have 2 loops happening right now. And it looks like we've kind of stepped backwards, but we really haven't. The reason for this is that we're looping here once. It doesn't reset. Once we're on this loop runs, it moves and increments this across value here by 5. When it increments it by 5, it goes down to the main loop and it runs the rest of it. Then it starts over the loop. It shows, oh, down is now at 1 instead of 0. So we're going to increment this and do this again. It checks this loop. And across now is already at 5. So it's not going to loop it again. So what we can do to get it to loop again is actually say across, once it's already finished the loop, resets itself back to 0. So if we do that there, we can see that we have a little bit closer to what we want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the rest of them are here at the 0 position. You'll see that if we select all of this, that is all there. That is okay. We'll fix that as we go along. Well, basically, the reason that is happening is that this here should be inside of this loop. Let's fix it now, so that way it's not lingering as something that we need to fix. Because we are wanting to rename this every time we go along. So now we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of these, they're going to be pushed across, which is fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are going to be pushed across, which is fine. So you see, like 5 at a time will be in those positions. So that is good. Now we just need to move them across. So let's copy this set adder command, paste it, and then TX, and this is going to be across. And instead of -5, because I want to move it in the positive X direction, we'll set that there. So basically we're doing the moving across now. We're setting it as a value there. So let's test this code now. And we can say that we get a grid, a little matrix of spheres. So that is exactly how the nesting works. And you can get a little bit more fancy and do different things. So for example, with, let's say we wanted to get rid of this row. So we wanted to loop and create all of this, but we don't need this second row right here. So we can nest an if statement. So let's say if down is equal to 0, which is great, or down is greater than 1. So basically, as long as it's any number except 1, we will do this loop. So now we've nested a while loop inside, or we've nested this while loop inside of this if statement, which is inside of this while loop. So when we run this now, you'll see that we get the same result, except that it skips number 1 because it's not meeting the condition for the if statement. And even though it didn't meet the conditions there, you can see that it is still going to increment the down by 1. So that's why it skips that line and it goes on to the next. And the numbering is all still correct with the total number of spheres that we have, which is 20. So that is how nesting works. I hope you found this useful. And in the next lesson, we're going to be covering functions and basically how to encapsulate large bits of code so that we can call it with a single line. And it makes it a lot easier for us to do more robust scripts for what we're doing here in Maya. So I hope you guys found this helpful, and we'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye.